Hello, so here we are with another video for the Chrysler Grand Voyager. Now this time what we're going to be doing is we're going to be changing the fuel filter. Now there's several different types of fuel filter for the Chryslers. Now on this one, this is a 2004-2005 Chrysler Grand Voyager. It's the 2.8 CRD. Now you can check for which type of fuel filter you've got on these ones. Two simple ways. One is underneath the car, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that one because it's actually quite straightforward to spot. And if you just go underneath at the rear, I found it easiest going underneath at the rear here, and you go, this is the rear axle we're at the moment, as you can just about make out the top of the photo. And then if we go along plastic, there you can see that plastic in the closest to the right is the fuel pump and filter housing. So what we've got to do is we've got to take that off, and inside there is the fuel filter. So what comes in the pack with this fuel filter? You'll see cylindrical, simple fuel filter, and the seal. That's important to have that because you want to replace that just to make sure that we get a nice snug fit, because obviously you don't want any air getting into this because that will cause us some problems later on. So what we'll do is we'll get under the car, we'll get into position. You're going to need something to catch the fuel that drips out as you do it. Now I'm going to jack the car up. You might be able to get away without doing it because there is quite a bit of room underneath these ones, but I'm going to jack it up, get an axle stand in nice and safe, and then get under there and we'll have a look at what we've got. So the first thing you want to do is find a ring spanner that's going to fit. Now you can see this one fits perfectly, gets all the way on without being forced, and this is a 1-inch spanner. Now you can also go for that, but I prefer the ring spanner because it gets a better fit on there. So first thing, so what we'll do is we'll get the connector off. You push the tab up, it should then just slide out. And what we'll do is we'll just push that up into the gap up at the top there, keep it out of the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to release this little drain first. Just get this moving. There we go. And this just gets the diesel out of the filter and the pump housing. So as you can see, we're slowly getting there. Now what I've also used is these, which is for removing oil filters, because that lets you get a good purchase around the outside. So you can see it's now loose to the touch. We're still getting the odd bit of diesel dripping out, so keep your bowl underneath and get ready, because obviously when we move this there's still going to be some diesel in the filter as well. So we just hold on to it as we turn it. It's best to use gloves, obviously. And there we go. And we can take the filter out completely. And just tip that up, just to let the remains drip out of it, and then we can have a look and see how the filter is itself. Pull it out like this, just a plastic clip that holds it in the bottom there, and we can take the filter out. Now actually this one doesn't look too bad, it's still intact, it's still holding together. We don't have any debris or anything damaging or metallic or anything like that inside, so it doesn't look in too bad condition, but we'll get it replaced, then we know that it's been done and we're happy. Now before we put the new one in, just double check that it looks identical to make sure. Now there's still a little bit of diesel coming off this, so we'll put that into a container for safety. So the next thing to remember is to change our rubber seal. Now you can see, again, this one's in pretty good condition, but we'll remove it anyway, and then we know that it's been changed. So we'll just get the old seal off. Now although it looks pretty good, I'm not sure if the camera will show this, but as it stretches, lots of little holes and stress marks appearing on it, so we can see that it's not great. So what we'll do is we'll get the new one. Now there's a little bit of diesel still in the bottom of here. What I'm going to do is just dip the new seal in that, so it's got a thin coating of the fuel on it, line it up, and then start to feed it round. Make sure it goes in place nice and snug. Make sure there's nothing else obstructing any of the screw pieces. There we go, so that's okay. What we'll do is we'll give the inside a little bit of a clean, just to get rid of any debris or anything that's in there. There's a little bit of gunk, just to make sure it's clean. Okay, so that's it cleaned up a little bit inside. So we've now got our new filter, and again it just clicks into place like that already. Now ideally, if you've got some spare diesel, clean diesel that is, you could pour it in here, help to get the filter flooded with diesel, which will avoid any sort of airlocks or anything like that. Now I don't have any, so what it means is I'll have to run the pump a couple of times to get it back up to pressure, get the system full of diesel again before we start it and run it, just to make sure that it runs right the way through the system. But that's that back on, so we'll get it back on the car now. as always, finger tight first. Make sure you don't cross thread it or damage it. So we get it in as far as we can, like this. Okay, so that's gone nice and snug. You can see there's no seam at all the way around. Now the only problem we've got is the connector is now in the wrong place. It's actually around the other side. Now, that's not a major problem. It will actually fit on round that side, so we'll just plug it in round there instead. Now this connector is the water in fuel sensor, so that's on. Now don't forget, we want to leave this open and run it, which will get some of the fuel through initially. Did was I primed the car. Now I did this by turning the ignition on. Now I did it between 10 and 15 times until I heard the pump cut out, then turn the ignition off and back on again. This was to get the pump pushing the diesel back in and making sure that it was pumped back in. Now the engine started up second time. First time it stuttered, second time it fired. It did a little hesitation, but it's running fine now. I've been running it for 5 to 10 minutes now to make sure, and also looking underneath and making sure that there are no drips or leaks or anything like that. So I'll run it for another 5 minutes or so, turn off, and then we'll have a look underneath and just make sure that there's no patches of diesel around the filter and the housing, just to make sure that we've got no leaks whatsoever, and then that should be done. Now I'll have one final look underneath. Now remember that we've had it running, the exhaust and underneath are going to be hot, so we want to be careful, but we can have a look. There's no leaks, no sign of damp patches around our filter assembly or anything like that. So there we go, that's how to change the fuel filter on a Chrysler Grand Voyager 2.8 diesel. Hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget, please like this video and of course comment and subscribe for more. Other than that, I'll see you next time.